these when we had. Okay, got it. Because I have one of these.
All right. What is
So,
that?
Leica M3,
Oh, right. Nice.
and this was called a dual range 50 millimeter Summicron, and there's a pair of bug eyes that go on.
Oh, what happens there then?
That's for close focusing.
Oh,
And once you put that on, the lens kind of like adapts, and you can focus to about 8 or 10 inches away. And that lens is probably 60 years old. And most Leica aficionados say that's probably the best lens that Leica ever made.
oh,
It's
wow.
really fun,
What's
really fun to
what's
use.
that lens worth now?
You can find used ones for about $1,200.
Really?
But
Well, Gary's gotten me turned on to Voigtlander's quality, and you can get it in like a Sony mount, and you can get them in like a Leica M mount, and then you use adapters for your cameras.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently some of those lenses have tremendous character and are equal or better than the Leica lenses.
Mm-hmm.
So
just another toy to play with.
yeah, he
Yep.
just convinces me to get me another lens almost like the last one I got.
You need this, Bob.
Yes, that I need that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've never really fooled with the manual focus lens much. I've got that old Takumar, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this might be kind of fun on the Sony.
You can't just go out and shoot 10,000 images in a day with a manual focus lens. That's what
Yeah,
it's
you're
got to
not
slow
gonna do
you down
that.
a little bit.
Yeah, that's the good thing about them, right?
Yeah, the one I ordered was a 41.2. But they make them ridiculous, like a 1.0s.
Mm-hmm.
But they're priced reasonable compared to Leica.
Sure. What else have you been shooting lately, you guys?
Trees out in fog and trees in snow.
Yeah, he gets out.
Shooting trees.
I've only been shooting old family photos.
Well, you've been laid up a bit, haven't you? That's
Yes.
it's your
Yeah.
limiting factor, right?
I got to make sure we end fairly quick tonight. I've got to be at the operating room at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, are they doing the
bending and
tension
crunching.
work tomorrow?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to think about that.
No.
They say it makes a sound sort of like louder than Rice Krispies and sort of like Velcro ripping.
Oh.
Are
Do you
you
get
going
to
to be
listen-
awake for this?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you get to listen to that, or are you out?
No, they'll have me out.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I think. Be my luck, they'll forget.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's a big deal. So what's the recovery from that? The same as before, or is it expected?
It all depends. It just depends. I'm at 65 to 70 degrees now.
Mhm.
Anticipation is they'll bend me tomorrow to 120, and I'll rather rapidly lose half of that distance. And then I got a physical therapy at back
Mm-hmm.
for a period of weeks and months.
Okay.
But it all depends.
Mm-hmm.
I did talk to Kevin at length 2 or 3 days ago, and then again a few minutes ago. He's tied up tonight with some court documents he's got to do to get custody of his wife, so he can give her in-house care. But
Custody of his wife.
yes, that's a lot. Yeah, the hospital is not wanting to let him take care of her in his place because they don't think he's stable enough. Kevin did tell me he's had a bunch of strokes.
Right.
And he thinks now that most of his problems over the last year or so were in fact strokes, but he didn't know what they felt like. Apparently they've not done much damage, but he still has very weak legs.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I told him we're gonna get his ass out and go photograph this spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a good incentive, hopefully, that he would want to do that, right?
Well, let's see, we got Mr. Hagopian. Bob H.
I forget who else said was coming tonight.
The other lady that was there the other night dressed in yellow. Forget her
Uh,
name.
Hey, Bob.
Was it
Bob, can
Judy?
you hear us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yep.
can.
Okay.
Wow, look at that
Nice.
background. I love that.
Yeah, a nice winter wonderland background there.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that one of your pictures?
Yeah, excuse me. It was from a couple years ago when we had some snow. I went into a park area near my home and just a lot of snow in the area. And I I kind of blurred it. Um, and I thought it would be nice as a background.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
I see your three pictures, but for some reason I don't see mine.
You're about halfway down on the screen. It's right now we're seeing about mustache up.
Yeah, we can see you anyway.
Okay.
At least you're here. That's a
All
good,
right, good.
we've been struggling to get a quorum of people. Just
Mm,
so much travel. And there's Irwin.
Hello,
Hi.
Howdy.
how you guys?
Excellent. We are recording, so don't say bad things. Or at least I think yeah, it says we are. Oh, here we
Yeah,
got
told me
Judy.
on the way
Judy
in.
Cleese, that's who I was trying to think of. I'm bad at names. Judy, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I had trouble getting logged in. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
very
we can
good.
hear you.
Tom Pinard's coming.
Did you see that they are returning the Detroit Auto Show to January next year again?
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. They're
Well,
doing
that
away
way
with the
gives us
summer
something to
thing.
do.
Mm-hmm. I just think I don't know if it's ever going to be what it was before, but I don't think
No,
the summer date really worked very well. So
the Detroit automakers are not going to be what they once were, I'm
no.
afraid.
Mm. Well, it's just, I mean, the big shows are LA, New York now, aren't they? And
Yeah.
which is crazy when you think about Detroit being Motor City, but that's where they're spending their money.
I saw a YouTube video about an hour ago where they were saying that both GM and Ford and the Chrysler company, all three could be in danger of going out of business over the next few years if things don't radically change for them.
Why is that? I thought they were doing okay, no?
Well, let's take Ford. Every EV they sell, they lose $36,000 on.
Well,
They've been doing that for 3 years, so I think they've lost 6 or 7 billion just on EVs. And GM's not much better.
well,
Yeah, I've heard that that GM is really going all in on EVs, and the person that told me about this said that they highly questioned that judgment for the company, and they felt that the GM was at risk.
Yeah, when one of the things GM did is they wanted to build a new battery plant, so they got the federal government to front them with $2 billion. So if they get in trouble,
Wow.
guess who gets to pay for that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I understand there are a lot of people who are lined up and their cars are parked at charging lots because it just isn't working out for them during this cold weather.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's a reason for a big part of that. People weren't doing what they need to do. In the case of Teslas, let's say you're traveling and you want to go from point A to point B, and it knows you're going to a supercharger. Before you get there, it will take some of the battery juice and warm the battery up so it's ready to accept a high voltage charge. And if you leave your car out overnight without being on a charger, then it comes in and it won't accept a charge until the battery warms itself up for 30 minutes or so. And
Oh,
I think that was a big hunk of it, is people just,
oh,
yeah. And everybody knows that if they pay attention, but
yeah.
anyway, long story short, we should talk about photographs instead of cars.
Right.
I was at the Rochester Library this morning and looking at their new books, and I saw this one, Joel Meyerowitz, Question of Color. And if you remember who he was, he's the guy that started color photography. He likes to photograph with things that are orange in the frame.
Mhm.
And when he
Street
started,
photography, right?
pardon?
Street photographer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and he started in the early '60s in New York, working for ad agencies. And when he started mentioning color, everybody thought he was crazy. Nobody shot in color in the early '60s. Everything was black and white. So what he decided to do is, whenever he went out, he took two cameras, one loaded with black and white, and the other with color, and he shot slide film because he liked projecting it. He and a friend shot color, and they would, at night, they would take their slides and project them on a wall so that they're like 3 or 4 feet wide, which you couldn't do with black and white prints at the time. You could just barely make 8x10s and study them. And so he liked that. I'm just starting to go through it, and it's the whole book has got two pictures or two versions of every picture that he took during those years, one in color, one in black and white. And he kind of describes the advantages and disadvantages, why he wanted color and not black and white. And there's a whole list of people that loved black and white at that time, and they had all the reasons why color was just a gimmick, and on and on. And we were going to talk tonight a little bit about the F-64 group and pictorialism, and that was another fight during the 1930s about which type of photography was going to take control and go. So I've been looking for more books on pictorialism, and it just seems to have vanished. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that it was only 6 months ago that I actually became aware of the term. And
What does it mean?
it's a movement in photography that started in about 1870 and lasted for about 50 or 60 years, and it was the most important movement in photography for 60 years. Guys like Steichen and Steiglitz and Weston, everyone that was involved in photography was into pictorialism, and it was a forced manipulation of images to make it look more artistic. So what they were trying to do is take an image, a negative, and do whatever they could to make it look like a painting. And back then, you have to understand what the tools that they had. I mean, there were stories about how guys would take coffee grinds and rub them over the negative just to scratch it up, and or take oatmeal and throw it into the developers just to give it some kind of texture. I mean, on and on and on. I mean, everybody was doing it. It was like the most common thing around in photography, and I never even knew about it. And when I asked people about it, they say, what was that about? I mean, I never heard of that. And when you start doing the research and you see some of the pictures back then, they're just so charming. I mean, it's like out of a fairy tale kind of a look. And it's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do today. I shouldn't say that entirely, but so all this went on, and Steiglitz and all these people were in, and then all along comes Ansel Adams, and trying to remember the lady's name.
Oh, yeah.
Tom, help me.
No.
You're not talking about
It
Maya.
was that California Bay Area bunch, the wild ones.
Yeah, and there were like 6 or 7 of them, It started in 1931. They decided that the pictorialist view was ridiculous and fake, and they wanted to go super realistic. And the F-64 is the, if you ever used a point or a landscape camera, view camera, F-64 is like the smallest f-stop on the lenses, which gives you the maximum depth of field. So they fashioned themselves as being super realist. Everything had to be in focus. Everything had to be sharp. And if you think about the mentality of 99% of the photographers now, it's the same mentality. Everything's got to be in focus. Everything's got to be sharp, and it seems like we've lost the romanticism of photography that they had started back in the pictorial age. So it's hard to find even books, that talk about it anymore. It's like it was just rolled under the carpet after 60 years, and everybody wanted to go away. We don't want to talk about it, and I think it's unfortunate that the road we've taken, because when I first started getting into large format photography, my hero was Ansel Adams, of course. And my mentality was everything's got to be in focus, everything's got to be sharp, it's got to have tonal range, it's got to have the zone system, and it's got to look like Ansel Adams did it. And that was the mentality, I think, of most photographers. Everybody followed along and did the same thing. And there was very little creative manipulation of images. And so we've got some samples to talk about, and I hope it's of interest to the group.
One thing I might as well just put this out right now. There's a group I just discovered this week, and it's the URL is theartstory.org. Write that one down, theartstory.org. And it's a nonprofit, I think, and they have gone out and detailed the history of photography in each of the genres and stuff. And as a result, you can go to theartstory.org and type in such things as Group 64, and it'll tell you everything and show you pictures and all the detail. Same thing with pictorialism or other movements. And that'll tell you quite a bit. So that's a good resource. Just discovered it a whole 4 or 5 days ago.
Bob, you sent me this PDF on pictorialism, and that's probably one of the best summaries.
That's where it's from. Is I just copied it, and then I realized it's probably just as easy to give everybody the URL.
Okay, now the names are all coming back here. Alfred Stieglitz, Julia Margaret Cameron, Imogen Cunningham was one I was thinking about. Steichen, and this is I have to go back up to the top because I was reading this once before. Let me get back up to the top.
Copy the
here.
whole thing, so I copied the text and then individually copied the pictures and stuck them all together.
That was a lot of work, but it's worth it. So right here, it's telling you from like 1855 or 1885 through the beginning of World War I. This was really the emphasis in photography. But guys like Stieglitz and Steichen really did a 180-degree turn after the F-64 group came in. They wanted to be part of that, and they thought they saw the light that So here's some samples, and I think these are great samples from the different photographers at that time and their artistic approach.
And the text will explain with each one of them.
I mean, this is Alfred Stieglitz doing this country scene. Just wonderful images. In fact, this image, I think, sold. It was the most expensive print that was ever sold. And it's not correctly, I'm trying to remember who did this. I think it's a Steichen image.
Look
sold
above.
for like $50 million.
Wow.
So, Bob, I don't know if are you going to send this out to everybody? I think it would be worthwhile for
I certainly
everyone.
can, but I think maybe the better thing to do is just take the URL and
Okay.
look at it live, because it actually presents it a little better. And you also then can go out and look at many different things about photography. It's quite a wealth of information.
The Camera Work was a periodical that Stieglitz started producing back in 1903, and it was a pictorialist journal. And that was his whole approach to the art of photography at that time. It was pictorialism, and he had his studio and his galleries in New York. You probably remember seeing that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably
So
the
yeah.
most famous pictorialist photograph. Is that
And there's plenty of
I-
links here that you can take and go off to other descriptions and so on. Frederick Henry Evans is one of the great photographers at that age,
Now, you
and so
notice they
on.
use the
So
term straight photography. And so straight photography is sort of in between pictorialism and F64. It's closer to F64, but it basically said you want to take pictures that look like pictures, not like paintings.
and let's see, I did.
Those photographs look somewhat like photographs that I've been taking lately with my camera. I bought a Polga lens.
Aha.
yeah.
I think it basically is a pinhole, and I'm getting pictures that are soft like these.
Oh,
There's a combination of effects that the lenses that they used back then. The Holga would have been a great quality lens compared to what they were using 100 years ago back then. And here's some that I pulled off, and I'm going to open these in Photoshop just so we can see them larger because they're really small images. But here's a typical street scene. And Tom, help me with the name of the Belgian photographer,
Leonard Misson.
Misson.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
my
he's
favorite. I mean,
fantastic.
yeah, it just some fabulous images.
and with the crude equipment they had to work
That's
with.
one of his right there. Yeah,
I mean, the equipment was crude. You're right, Bob. But on top of that, they really went overboard trying to manipulate that negative in the prints, getting it to take on this artistic look.
Well, I saw a piece in the documentation where one of the guys was using 5 different negatives overlaid. So he took a
They
picture of
combined
5.
them together. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were composites. They did that.
Wow.
that's
Look like fine art.
Yeah, your Holga should be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad you
That's
brought that up, because I've got a pinhole lens, which is nothing more than a glorified lens cap with a hole in it.
yeah. The Holgas, I seem to recall they're about $20, I think. I got a couple through Amazon, gave one to another photographer friend of mine as a birthday gift, and it's just been kind of fun. I haven't gotten anything quite this awesome yet, but I think I need to get in some better light. This is good light in this.
Yep.
Well, the problem is that our lenses and equipment are so good right now that it's hard to try to replicate what they were doing 100 years ago, and they're doing a better job of it. So
Yeah, these are fun pictures. These are fun.
Later on, I'll show you what I've been screwing around with the last couple of days, trying to take modern photos and turn them into this stuff. I'm a long ways from knowing what I'm doing.
there's such a dreamy quality to them, that
Yeah.
You have to you have to imagine what a lot of the missing pieces are.
well,
Ooh,
these are others I was going to try to do some, but let me get back to So, so what I did is, with AI, I went into Adobe site and I tried to describe to the AI generator something that, would look like this. And here's some of the results I got.
Hmm.
Now that looks pretty good. I mean, that's,
Mhm.
And you just told it pictorialism?
I used about 15 different words to describe what I was looking for, fog, soft, manipulated, on and on and on, just trying to get it to catch on. It did a really good job of, and these AI engines are getting so good compared to a year ago when I first started playing with it. They are really getting good.
These are still relatively sharp and clean compared to some of the others.
They are, and I think by changing the description, I didn't try things like asking for a texture overlay. You could take this file that you save, and then you could add a texture overlay if you wanted to start doing something else with it. But I love the way it's rendering. So that's where I am with that.
How did you do that again, Gary?
I used Adobe's, what do they call it? Let me see here.
Firefly?
Firefly, yes. Thanks, Tom.
What was
And if you have an Adobe subscription, you can go to Adobe Firefly, log in, and you can use their AI service. And what you do is just type in a description of what you want the artificial intelligence machine to create. And there's all kinds of filters it has as far as kind of styles and things like that. And you just have to keep playing until you get into a neighborhood of you're getting close, and then you can tell it to use that as a basis and to start developing further ideas on that. So I mean, this was only after 10 or 15 minutes of work, I was getting results like this. So I can imagine if you spent more time and what this is going to be like in a couple of years with what Adobe's doing.
See, Firefly is the engine behind Adobe's AI stuff, but you like the generative AI in the latest Photoshop, you can kind of do this in the midst of editing. You can have a big space and tell it exactly what you want, and it'll bring back three candidates. And if you don't like them, you can say, do it again, and you can add more words to it.
So I've saved on my Flickr site, I've got a album for Pictorialism, and I'll go through that real quick just to give you an idea of some of the things I'm playing with. And this is only where I'm trying to go with some of these things. And there's different techniques here. Fog helps a lot if you can get something with fog, but just taking the picture, trying, I use Topaz Studio. They have a section in there for impressionism and impressionistic brushes. And I start developing that. There's like 150 different variations that you can use for creating the overlays, and just playing with it, playing with the contrast, and these are some of the details or the results that I've done so far.
Beautiful.
your previous picture? I really liked. It was interesting what it was doing with the leaves.
Mhm.
Yes,
Little
just enough of a
are just-
manipulation. Yeah, that it looks like it's a painterly type of
Yeah.
approach,
Mhm.
and how the shadows are starting to mush together and become a texture of its own. It's almost like a watercolor type of a thing, and this is a little bit different style.
Yeah, it reminds me of when you are wandering through the woods and it's just a magical day. You
Right.
know, you'll see these kind of things, but to capture them, my.
And it takes some work to find the right image, right subject matter.
Wow.
Yeah, I love those shadows behind.
Yeah. Wow.
And now these are all clean examples.
Yeah, these were early ones, and I've so you're going to see some variation in where this is going. Here I've got more texture in the sky, and I think picking ugly trees sometimes actually makes it better than just finding a really nice tree. If you look back at some of the pictorialists, they weren't really selective about some of the things they were photographing. It was just go out and take the shot, and this one is highly manipulated. You can look at the leaves and the way, it's almost like a watercolor. There's another type of a variation. These were more realistic than they were pictorialist, but they seem to be in the right direction. It's almost like a uh, post post pictorialism. I like the way the backgrounds render.
Mhm.
Here's another that really faded out, and
Those are gorgeous.
so I tried a couple in color. They weren't using color back then, but it's somewhat successful. This is out at Stony Creek, and then this is the dog run area. With the fence going up and down. Doug and I were out there. I think he submitted something like this in club and he said he got 27 points with it. So
Yeah, that looks familiar.
a lot of different styles there. I'll quit that and go back. This, Bob, I've got your stuff here.
If you want, why don't you just go to my Flickr site? 'Cause I've got about 12 or so up there.
Okay, let me.
Well, that's Yellowstone, isn't it?
I've been screwing around with that the last few days. Gary's been helping me a little. I'm by no means ready to roll on this, but
Yeah, I've got a lot of hours in this right now. So if you start this, don't get frustrated. Just take your time and, study, try different things. I've probably got 150 hours of study and research and different attempts to get things
so as you go
going.
through
So
here, you're gonna know this is one I just put up a few minutes ago. I've tried different textures, like these are finer textures. The earlier one had a more coarse around the edge.
yeah, this is one of my favorites. I really like this, Bob. The lady walking, working there with the turkey and the chickens, and
Yep, just the way
I
I
think that
want
really,
it.
that really captures the spirit of what they were trying to do.
Now, this one, I tried some 2 or 3 very mild textures on it, but this is the World Series of Baseball. This is the team that just won 2 years ago. This is for the old style baseball.
And this is getting there. It's getting real close, Bob. This is good.
Again,
That's
this
another one. That's good.
tried different. There's 2 or 3 finer ones on, mainly because I can't find my textures. Now this I didn't put any textures on. This is just Yosemite or Yellowstone Falls that I shot. I don't know, when was it? 2013. And I just softened some areas, but I had fog. Fog helps. Now we get into
These are examples of the F-64.
this is what Ansel would shoot. This is out in Yosemite. You see everything sharp.
These pictures technically capture everything perfectly as it is. And it's hard to, put them side by side with pictorialist pictures because they're so dramatically different.
Yeah,
I mean, it's fine to go either way.
yeah, most of these examples are all in Ansel Adams territory. This is Half Dome,
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful.
Mountain Valley.
Nice.
That's Half Dome. That's hanging right beside my desk
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you did a great job on those, Bob.
Thanks.
Okay.
This is the Snake River overlook
Mhm.
of the Tetons, and I'm standing just a few feet from where Ansel stood when he took his famous picture. But those trees were all much, much smaller, and you could see the whole bend of the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just down the road from the parking lot.
Yeah, I remember being there and I was thinking the same thing. These trees were a lot smaller when he was here.
Yep. And that's just a color version of it.
Ah,
Nothing now. This is junk.
Okay. So that's,
There's different variations that are completely different of the same photos.
yeah, so it may be of interest to people, may not, so, but I've had a lot of fun with it. Every time Tom and I get together for coffee, we talk about it. So Bob, I looked at these and I was really impressed. I thought, I love this series on PBS.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love the introduction and so you went the whole route here. You took the style and you tried to recapture it or capture the style and put it into some of your pictures. I think you did a great job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. This first picture is from that other one is from a screenshot from the actual program, All Creatures Great and Small. I just put it here as an example to show everyone. And the next photo is when we were in Scotland. There was a sheep herder with his dogs, and I thought this would be a good candidate for that type of style. So this is how it turned out.
Wow.
And what I did on this one, I used the Photoshop filter gallery with the cutout, and there's different levels you can use to get more or less detail in the photo. And some of them come out looking better than other levels. And also what I did is I used Topaz Studio 2
Yeah.
abstraction. And I took the best parts of each one of those two finished photos and merged them together. Because the dog on the right didn't have much detail. And there were some other details I wanted to bring out, but I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm still
Pretty
working
good to
on
me.
it.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you saw a style that you like and then you went the whole route trying to replicate it. I think you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
It's gonna be a sad day in River City when Topaz goes completely belly up on as far as studio, because
Mhm.
that's not a supported program anymore.
Hmm.
Oh, there's an example.
Here's another. This was in Scotland, also on the battlefield of Culloden battle.
Yep.
Cullen, yeah.
Yeah, this house or whatever it is was alone there in the field, and I thought this would be a good candidate for that other style of artwork. And that's how that one turned out.
Wow.
You lose a lot of detail, but
yeah.
it's a good style, a nice type of artwork. This is the Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, and I did it in color in black and white.
Oh, that's nice.
It almost looks like infrared, but it's not. It's just
Leaf reflections.
what was that?
Was it just leaf reflections?
But yeah, right. I played around with the luminous on that to get, the different colors, brought out certain colors. This is the a castle in Scotland, Dunrobin, it's called. It's really a interesting castle, and in where I was standing, they have a nice gardens that overlooks the Atlantic Ocean. It's really something to see.
They have tours going through there.
Yes, they do.
So it's on the west coast.
Yes.
Hmm.
And this is the same castle, just a different view on that. This is a cemetery next or behind Stirling Castle, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it was kind of foggy, misty in the background, and so I kind of liked the way that turned out.
Looks really nice here, better than at the club when you see a good resolution.
Well, the club I entered in black and white. The next photo
Right.
is, but
Bob, was this a cemetery for wealthier people? I mean, these are pretty significant stones, headstones, and things like that.
yeah,
Statues.
it seems to be, but I'm not certain of that.
Okay.
And you say this was behind Stirling Castle?
Yes.
Wow. I wonder how I missed this.
And this is the one I entered in competition, the black and white.
I like the way it fades out in the background here. This
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another castle in Scotland. This one is Eileen Donan
Yeah.
Castle. And when we were there, it was, you can tell there's a lot of heavy clouds around, but just for a few minutes, the sun broke through and I was able to get this shot with the sun shining in the reflection on the castle.
I like the black and white.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's
And this one I also entered in competition. Yeah. And this is just along the coast of Scotland. That's the Atlantic Ocean in the background there. And this one was, I think this was on the Isle of Skye. It was really windy that day. It must have been 25, 35-mile-an-hour winds, and you're pretty high up, so you really have to watch your step walking around. This photo here was taken at Elmwood Cemetery in the fall. And what I did is I put my camera on a tripod and this was about a 4 or 5 second exposure, and I zoomed out with the lens
It's a really
to
nice
get
job.
that effect. Thank you.
Did you zoom out or did you zoom in?
I think I zoomed out. I'm pretty sure I zoomed out on that. I focused on the on the structure here, and clicked the button, and then I zoomed out real slow
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
Try that with a manual focus lens.
Yes, right.
That'd be fun.
And this one I entered in competition. It's about 4 or 5 photos of a tree at a Lansing park. In the fall, this tree was just by itself in a field, and so I had a good background of other colors behind it. But I walked around the tree and took different photos of it, trying to get the trunk the same in every photo. And then I merged it into Photoshop and
Hmm.
worked with it that way.
Well, that worked well.
Yeah. Came out nice. So that's about it.
Good. Keep at it. This is
Yeah,
good
thank
stuff.
you.
Let's see, Tom.
Right.
Now, Tom's not shy about going in and manipulating images, so
I probably should lighten things up a little bit, but
I don't know. These are all good.
Yeah.
um, that was last winter up on Lake George Road, not too far from Bald Mountain.
So were you trying for pictorialism or just you like that look?
No, you know what? I just take a bunch of crummy photographs and then I make them look like something when I get home. Uh, uh, that's oh, where is that? I guess that's up Stony Creek somewhere. Yeah, and I got several layers there, and I have a background layer for the texture, and then I didn't even like that shot, and I thought, well, let's fool around with this thing and see what we can do with it. So.
Well, if you were living 100 years ago, I think you'd be at the top of the class.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Hmm.
That's just downtown. I probably should have used a different texture up there, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of
but
like it.
I can always change that. Yeah, I'm kind of learning what as I'm going here. Yeah, it was a foggy night. Rochester be the east parking garage up on the roof. I think that's where it's at. Yeah. And that is in Rochester City Park. And it's used, I blended a background, a textured background. Sometimes I make the background, sometimes I go online and look for backgrounds, and I might even manipulate those around a little bit too.
That's awesome. Wow.
Oh, I think that's City Park in Rochester. That was, I believe that's several shots from different angles of a tree. Yeah. And then I stacked it up, made some texture on there, and then blur it out and put some clumpy grain in there and a little bit of vignetting here and there. So it has a real impressionistic look, I think.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
nice.
I'm overdoing it on the brown a little bit too much.
I don't know.
I'd like to.
You got a lot of earth tones in there.
I'll do some more exploring around with the. Got a lot to go, and
Oh, that's nice.
Well, that could pass as a,
yeah, it really does look like a stipend, maybe.
yes.
Yeah, that was when you and I were up there, Gary, at Bear
Oh,
Creek.
yeah.
Yeah,
What park was that?
Bear Creek,
Okay.
Oakland Township Park. Yeah. So I added a little. I brought the road out a little bit and augmented the sun, that kind of watery looking sun there. It was kind of a cold day, wasn't it, Gary? Yeah, it was sunny, but
Yeah, it was a little nippy,
yeah, a little nippy there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but it looked nothing like that.
no.
So then, Tom, what's your process when you have your raw file? What's your process to get to this point?
Oh, let's see. Go to my raw file and I'll probably throw an iris blur, or no, not in raw. I'll just play around with the contrast.
Have you blurred it? Have you sharpened it? Have you?
No, I don't sharpen too much. I just kind of do the contrast and the shadows and the highlights, maybe a little bit of clarity, a little bit of texture, and probably throw some dehaze in there a little bit.
Added haze.
And then dehaze?
So did you add haze or dehaze?
Dehaze, yeah. And then I'll take that over and I'll put some clumpy grain in there. Actually, I'll blur it first. I use an iris blur, which really replicates some of those old vintage photographs. And then I'll finish off with a clumped grain. And
When you say
there'll be
clump,
other little tweaks. I go back and forth between Camera Raw and Photoshop quite a bit. I might be 10, 12 times sometimes, just making little tweaks.
Wow.
And then I did like a dodge and burn on the road and along the sides of the road and then up where the sun is. So it took me a while to get it, but I kind of like that. So one of my favorites right now.
Very neat.
But you should be clear, this is not a little bit of manipulation. This is a serious manipulation. I mean, he's done a lot to this.
Yeah, it was a clear blue sky, wasn't it, with bright clouds?
Yeah, if you saw the raw file of this, you'd have no clue that it could end up like this.
I just used that iris blur today for the first time, and it's kind of neat.
It works great. Yeah. So you can really move it around. And I thought I'd try a little bit of it's not a complete cyan, but I just got tired of looking at brown. So that's the big long seawall at Grand Haven.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a blah day. It just wasn't. I couldn't get any good pictures that day, so that's why I got back home and I just decided to make it what I wanted it to be. Same place, different, just on the other side though.
Yeah, they both have an eerie look to them.
Yeah. Like you can't hardly. I don't know if you can see. I got a couple of little. There's a light on the top of the lighthouse, and then the other house down at the end of the pier. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a pretty blah day. I'd like to be over there right now. I hear it's just covered with ice. Must be pretty fantastic. So and that's that public beach right there at Grand Haven. I think that's 2 shots that I took and combined them, and then threw a background in and blended the background. So other than that, it was just that's Stony Creek, Gary, at the dog park.
Yeah, the dog park.
Yeah.
With the
Now
fence.
that's a nice contrast to your almost the same picture.
Yeah, I like that low
Yeah.
angle.
Two
Yeah, those are
different
about
styles.
180 degrees apart.
Yeah.
That's nice.
You
So
really make the meaning to the term "make a photograph."
yeah. And that's over at Oakland University, right corner of Adams and Walton there, that open field. Got looking at would be looking probably northeast. If it wasn't foggy that day, you'd see gas stations and whatever's across the street over there, banks. But the fog was nice because it obliterated that background. I wouldn't have wanted to select it. And but Stony Creek, that's maybe over the top, huh? What do you think? A little bit
I don't
too,
think you'll ever be over the top. It's just,
little bit too dramatic or something. I don't know.
well,
Armageddon.
hey,
I like the light on the above the trees. I think that's
Mhm.
it's really a nice.
Yeah, I should probably back the color off a little bit. But this is all just doodling around that I'm doing. So
but I'm almost afraid to go this far, and I'm glad you're doing this because maybe it'll push me a little bit harder to go and try some more things.
well, it's just fun. It really
I
is.
know.
I never know where I'm gonna end up. Just keep working on it.
Mm.
And I don't care for that one too much. But all right, there we are, back at the beginning.
Very good.
No,
So let's see, I'm trying to find,
find that dog park picture with the fence.
here's what I found. Tom and I were having coffee this morning and we were talking about being literal, with traditional photography and then trying to be poetic, and I said, Tom, who wrote that poem about the trees? And he said, Joyce Kilmer. So I looked it up, and, thinking about how a poet describes something and how somebody who just a literalist would describe it and the two differences, how far apart they really are. It's like the same in photography. You can be a literalist or you can be a poet, and the choice is up to you how far you want to go in either direction.
Yeah, I just love that shot. I like that. You got to show me how to do that.
Do what? Write poetry? Yeah, I wish. So, okay, Bob, I know you're on a short leash here, so I'm going to turn this back to you. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Cover any questions anybody's got. Gary, if you want, go ahead and maybe delve into Lightroom the way you've changed the way you operate.
Yeah, just let me try that real quick. I don't know how many of you use Lightroom.
Now we're talking about the difference between Lightroom LR and Lightroom LRC, Lightroom Classic.
For years, I've been a Bridge and Photoshop guy, and I hated Lightroom simply because of the catalogs and all the manipulations you have to go through to get things, saving catalogs and on and on and on, and the way you had to work through the process. Matt Kozlowski had a great series of videos explaining the new process, and it really comes down to you can reference your images in cloud, or you can do your local drives. And I think this is just amazing what they did is they actually went back and just used your information on your drives, like your folders and search engines. And, each one of these is a drive. If you want to go in, it's so easy to get to an image. You just pick your folder that you want to go into, and there you are with all the images. And if you want to, here's Lake Michigan. By the way, Tom told me about this place on Lake Michigan. I don't know, Michigan. It's called Rosie Mound Natural Pathway, I think is the official name of it.
Mhm.
I had never heard of it. And Doug and I went out there about 2 weeks ago, and it is the most amazing place. I mean, some of the things, these are some of the areas where we were taking pictures. So I'm digressing from what I should be talking about. But anyhow, it's so simple now that once you get into a folder, your images are across here. You can actually see the images like on a light table if you like, or
Quick.
you can go back. to seeing them individually. And then you can, hope this doesn't open up in Photoshop. Should just,
You've got most all of the same editing tools you would have in regular Lightroom. It stripped out well, it's never had the excess baggage of Lightroom Classic, like printing and slideshows and that kind of stuff. It's just straight photo editing. And what they've really done is they've added the ability to have access to local files that was not there before. And it's, well, Kozlowski says this is its go forward process.
yeah, I mean, here's all your tools on the right-hand side, from your presets that you can use to your, I mean, it's set up almost exactly like Camera Raw,
Well, it is
with your
Camera Raw.
Photoshop. And what's nice is you just work right here in your directories, and you can you know, do whatever kind of editing you want the same way it's set up in Camera Raw. And when you're ready, you can either just leave it the way it's edited, because it's going to keep that edit in your files, attached to your files, or you can go up here and just say edit in Photoshop, and it takes the image, drops it into Photoshop, and then you can work, you know, with any of the actions or manipulations that you want to do through Photoshop. So I mean, I think it's a great change. They still have the Lightroom Classic, but which I didn't care for, but this Lightroom is now available, I think, on the iPad as well, and it's set
yeah.
up the same way.
iPad, phones, everything.
Yeah, so I mean,
Now, where are your changes kept? Are they in a sidecar file?
Yes, they're in an XMP file. What
Okay.
you'll find though is you cannot, the two Lightrooms were not intended to share between them. So it's not a matter of reading each other's XMP file or taking mass quantities of stuff from Lightroom Classic. What you can do is you can go at the straight file folders under Lightroom Classic and hit those directly. But it's just, with the addition of this, it gives you a middle ground. Like I say, you don't have all of the deep indexing and searching and sorting. You can't make virtual copies. You can't do printing and books and things like that from here. But it's a very efficient way to run your business going forward if you don't need a great big indexing scheme.
So are you saying that you can't bring in the files from Lightroom Classic that you've already adjusted? You can't bring them in?
You
In
can't import them per se. You could export the final files to new folders with the edits, and then use those. Use the Lightroom to go at the old Lightroom Classic files. You follow what I'm saying? In other words, your Lightroom catalog points to a bunch of folders, and
Right.
you could go folder by folder and export those to a new location, and then let Lightroom use that instead, and abandon Classic. I know in my situation, I'm going to keep using Classic, but I'm also going to use this, especially when I'm on the road with laptops, that kind of thing. When you do quick and dirty reviews of your images.
Yeah, I know the Lightroom Classic. I know it's really cumbersome when you already have your files out there and you have them organized the way you like them, and then you have to import them. And every time you take shots with your camera, you bring them in, then you have to re-import them. It is cumbersome.
Right, so
Yeah,
that catalog functionality is removed. It does then make you have to have some kind of scheme for finding your photos.
Sure. Yeah, which I think most of us have probably done all our lives.
It's so simple now. You just go into your folders and pick the image you want. It appears on the screen, make your edits, and you're done.
Yeah.
The one
So-
thing that I would miss with this is I'm forever going back. Let's say I'm going to shoot Greenfield Village event, and I want to go back and see what lenses I used or focal lengths, or if, you know, that kind of thing. That's easy to do in Classic. You wouldn't have that ability with this.
Or you got the information, you just hit that little button and you got,
No, but you can't do it for a whole group and come back with statistics that said I took 400
oh,
shots.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but most people don't use that.
Yeah, I just love this. I went from being a die-hard bridge and Photoshop guy to using this now. I still use Photoshop. After I get where I want to be in Lightroom, I just take the file into Photoshop and I've got all kinds of actions and filters and system things like that. But this is where I start now.
So anyway,
So
what's new.
Gary, when you click on a file, does it show the all the individual images at the bottom there? Is that how?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a folder, and then all the images are at the bottom.
Film strip.
It's in a film
Okay.
strip. You can see it the old way too. You know, you can put it just, you know, have them all up on the screen at once if you want, and then you pick the one that you want to work on, and then you know, you can just keep flipping through all the images here. So it's so easy. I mean, it's
I'll have to
Bridge,
try
Bridge
it.
was nice because you worked with a folder system instead of catalogs, and I preferred that. But this is even better.
There's a few little warts that, you know, you find that are missing. We think some of those will get fixed up in future versions of it, but try it. I know for me, I'm going to take some getting used to missing a few things, but I'm going to use it. And again, it works on an iPad beautifully. And you can even do HDR editing and that kind of thing.
Gary, what was the name of that park on Lake Michigan? Mount
Rosie Mound Natural Pass. Is that it, Tom?
I just call it Rosie Mound Park, but yeah, it does have some
Yeah, if you Google it,
some
it
official
comes up right
name.
away.
Just
It's about 10 minutes south of Grand Haven. And I'll tell you, Doug and I both agreed that's a really an impressive place.
Yeah, I've been there. My daughter was at Grand Valley, and so she took us. That's where they used to go to walk, and so she took me there one time. It's really nice.
They've done a heck of a job with all the stairways and the railings, and it is just really well done.
Quite a walk from the parking lot to the lake shore, isn't it? If I remember
Well,
right.
it's a climb to get to the observation deck, which is overlooking. You're about 200 or 300 feet up over the Lake Michigan, and then they have another set of stairs that goes down. So the problem is, you go down, you got to come back up.
Yeah.
So it's a walk, and Doug and I didn't want to try it. It was kind of cold that day, and but it's nice when you get down there. If you can see all the paths that are down by the water. The sand dunes is just absolutely beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to going back and trying it again.
Road trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As soon as I can walk, we're going to be out there.
Well, Bob, good luck tomorrow. I know that sounds like an awful thing to go through, but
It is what it is, and I got to do what I got to do.
yeah.
What's tomorrow, Bob?
Yeah. Now, just I'll repeat that website I made reference to is theartstory.org. And I think you'll find a ton of good information there.
art story. That was hard.
And hopefully, as coming meetings, we get a bunch more people actually in town and showing up. Also, let us know what you're interested in so we have some idea. I'd hate for us to just kind of invent things for you guys to do and you don't like them.
which is what we did today. So, I mean, that's the result. If everybody liked it, that's fine. But sometimes, we could think of something that nobody's interested in, you'll be bored to death. So,
Kind of like to see some live editing of things that I like, use of the iris filter or use of the, like Bob, what you did with the sheep thing.
Mhm.
okay.
I'd love
Yeah.
to kind of see that done live
Yeah,
All
me
right.
too.
to be a complete a complete replica of what you've done. It can be, you can just wing it on, as you do it kind of thing.
You
Mhm.
bet. I think that would be very helpful. Maybe dedicate half or even a whole meeting to one person who's an expert in a few things, going
Mhm.
through how he does it.
Mhm.
Maybe we could do talk about your favorite technique, give everybody 15 minutes and let them, take it over, bring Photoshop up and explain what like Bob, you can talk about your PBS special filter for, that was great. And
Mm.
Tom, you've got hundreds of those things that you could pick from. So I know I've got some of mine that I really like. We can talk about them, but pick and
No,
choose.
who was it had? Oh, Pat Denon quite often does a negative, like creates a negative in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
For it's for his black and whites, right? I think mostly. But
Yeah.
I'd like to know how to do that. I mean, I think it's probably quite simple, but I don't know how
Yeah,
to do
in
it.
Photoshop, there's an option for invert,
Yeah.
and that's all you have to do.
Is that all you
Yeah.
have to do? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in Lightroom, I think there's a preset to do that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But another thing, I don't know if you guys would be interested, but I'm fascinated by what Gary's researched on all the old lenses versus the new, and what constitutes character as there's a whole line of subjects there if you have any interest. I'd love to see maybe him display, I took these photos with this lens and look at the character difference than these other lenses.
I like to see more from that Holga lens.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, because that's really where you're going off to the far end of lenses and things like that. So
Now that hole is just a simple hole in a piece of tin, right?
It's a plastic lens. Let me
Okay.
get,
Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah, they use that for lomography, They take those Holga cameras that have light leaks and plastic lenses and oh gosh, it started out in Russia. You could buy the camera for $50, and there's all kinds of people doing lomography. I even
get it.
kind of did
There you go.
through Photoshop. You can
Back a little.
simulate a Holga lens through Photoshop.
There, you got to get it focused.
The HOLGA.
There you go. That's better right there. So how big is the hole?
it is pretty much a pinhole.
Okay.
You can see right through. It's size of a small nail.
Okay. That's kind of what mine is.
There.
Yours
There
looks a little
There,
fancier
can
than
you see
mine.
kind of the size of the hole there?
Yeah.
That
just
might
about
be-
any old lens that you can find, there's an adapter that you can buy to to fit it onto a
They
mirrorless
evidently
lens.
put glass over it on this end, on the outside.
Why is the glass there? Just to protect your sensor?
I think I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe no, it's not the sensor. This is the sensor side. This goes on the inside.
Yeah, but the glass might
This
protect
is just the
stuff getting into
outside.
the sensor.
I'm not sure. I don't think the glass has really any function,
Okay.
but you get a fair amount of vignetting, which I haven't brought it in and tried Lightroom to work on any of my shots yet, but I would imagine you probably can get rid of a fair amount of the vignetting once you bring them in. But I've played with it a little bit, and it's fun,
Yep.
and it's like $20, and
Yeah.
you get I think they they have them out there for the various cameras. It's just, you know, Canon, it's for all of them, and Nikon's for most of the Nikons out there. So, yeah, but
Cool.
This is
It's,
an old Kodak vest pocket camera, and it's nothing more than a pinhole camera. There's no lens in there whatsoever. There's just a little hole.
really,
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the strategy back then, that if you wanted this version of the camera with a lens, it was like another $3. So if you wanted the glass lens in there, or, but
yeah. Well, I've got, I bought this. This is called a Franca roll fix. And yeah, there you go. Franca roll fix. And it was a camera back from the I've got that funky background in my shots.
Yeah.
There we go. But it's back from the 1950s and post-war, and made in Germany. And you can get it with various lenses, and takes 120 film. And I haven't shot anything with it. I bought it for $20 at a garage sale.
Well,
But
Gary's got quite a camera collection.
yeah, here's another Kodak larger. It's the large version of the vest pocket one, and there's no lens in this either. It's just a hole. You can go online and see the Kodak catalogs for each year that they had. You can actually get the PDF files, and but yeah, that's
there you can get a better.
you got a fancy one. Yours actually has glass in the.
Yes, yeah, it is an actual lens, and I've seen versions of this that has I believe it's a 2.8 lens,
Well, that was fast lens then.
and well, there's something else about this that's really, really neat. If I can get it open here, there we go. It has a piece on here. Let me see if I can.
you're sharp.
You can see the piece. It's
Yeah.
removable.
Hmm.
So the 120 film will take
Use a
either a
different mass,
large
yeah.
shot or a square shot, depending upon whether you put the piece in when you put the film through. So you can, either get square shots or rectangular shots with it, which is kind of a neat option, I think.
I
Tom,
think
you're gonna have to help me on this one, but this is the camera, the exact model that when they went up on Mount Everest. Who was the guy? It wasn't Hillary, it was the guy before Hillary.
Andy Irvin.
Yeah. And
Or
then
it was Mallory and Irvin went up
Mallory and
together.
Irvin. And this was what he used to take up to the top of Mount Everest, like 40 years or 30 years before Hillary. And they both died up there on the mountain. And they've been looking for 100 years for this camera in the snow and ice up there, because they figure if they can find it, the film will still be good. They can develop it, and he would have taken a picture at the top of Mount Everest. National Geographic did an hour-long special on this camera and the whole process. They sent an expedition up to Everest to try to find this. They found one of the guys up there, but they can't find the camera. This is what they're looking for.
Oh,
We found Mallory.
Found Mallory.
Mallory, and the camera was his, but it wasn't on him. So they thought possibly Irvine would have been taking the pictures, because Mallory was the leader of the expedition. So he'd probably want a picture of himself up on top of Everest first. And so they got pretty darn close. I mean, they were only within a few hundred feet of making it. But they disappeared into a passing cloud and were never seen after that until they found Mallory, about 1999, I think. They found him up there.
Yeah, it was about
He didn't
25
have
years
the
ago.
camera. He didn't have.
Can't find the camera, so.
Yeah. So that would be fantastic if they could find that.
I never checked to see if there was film in here. Maybe this is it.
I think the only halfway old camera I've got's a Minox, which is the
Oh
old
my
German
gosh.
spy camera. But I've got a newer version. It's probably about 1970. But it's about the size of a pack of cigarettes or a little smaller. And it's a full 35 millimeter.
Wow.
You can see
Wow.
on the back of this, there's a stylus that you pulled out and you.
Oh,
it's got
yeah.
a little flap that you push down and you were able to scribe on the back of the film, a little note or something as you went through.
Hmm.
When you think about, this is the technology that they had 100 years ago. Wow.
Well, it's getting that time. I
Okay.
probably be bailing. Any other last minute questions?
No, thank you.
All right. I will try and
back,
get
Kevin.
this published tomorrow sometime. Hopefully.
Okay.
Good luck, Bob.
All righty.
Okay.
See everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.